Hi, and thank you for tuning into this video. Today I want to share with you about one of my all-time favorite gemstones and why I like to use it in so many of my jewelry designs. The stone I'd like to talk about today is called Prehnite, and it has this kind of gorgeous minty green color, as you can see in the bead I'm holding up right there. And what makes it so special is that it's kind of rare to find prehnite just on its own. Usually it forms in tandem with epidote crystals and black tourmaline, sometimes even green tourmaline. And so what you have when you look at each piece is a completely unique individual piece of art created beautifully by Mother Nature herself. When you see inclusions in a stone, in some of the more traditional gem cutting circles, inclusions reduce the value of a gem. For example, when it comes to diamonds, you'll hear that VVS, like the very, very slightly included diamonds, or the diamonds that are pure, water clear with no inclusions at all, are the most highly prized. The reason being that the inclusions will kind of make it more murky looking, more cloudy looking. When it comes to a stone like a diamond, if it's cut in a brilliant cut or if it has lots of facets, the idea is that the cut will reflect and refract more light. That when a ray of sun hits it or a ray of fluorescent light hits it, it's going to send a beautiful array of rainbows all over the room. That's why you hear about diamonds having that inner light. When it comes to other gems though, the inclusions can actually, you can tell I'm excited. The inclusions can actually increase the value of the stones because they add to their rarity. One crystal healer known as Melody even coined the name for a gem that includes amethyst and cacoxenite and citrine and smoky quartz, all kinds of different stones in one. She's actually called it Melody Stone because when she discovered it in one of her mines, she immediately realized that having all of these gems together as inclusions within the quartz increased the value of that quartz, made it something more than it would have been if it were just the pure stone. Similarly, when it comes to prehnite, my long-winded way of getting back to the subject, when you see epidote inclusions or tourmaline inclusions, they increase the value of the stone because they lend to its uniqueness. The prehnite, it's not the kind of gem that gets cut in a brilliant cut that's meant to reflect different rainbows of light. It's actually usually cut either on cabochon, which means just a polished, free-form piece that's set in a pendant, or it's cut in the form of beads. And since it's not completely clear or transparent, it's more translucent, which means light can pass through it, but it's not glass clear. It's not expected that the stone be free of inclusions. Anyhow, the reason I called my Etsy shop The Art of Gems, this is a story I haven't shared yet in the video. Back when I was first getting into crystals and stones for spiritual purposes and when I was teaching myself to make jewelry, at the time I was going to the Emily Carr University of Art in Vancouver. And one of the assignments we had for an abstract painting class was to take something realistic, reproduce it realistically, but in such a way that a viewer would see it as abstract art. It was a very cool assignment, especially for someone like me who loves painting and who loves abstract work. And the way different students interpreted that assignment was pretty cool. Some of them took like extreme close-up pictures of the hair on their arm or the hair on their legs and painted that on a canvas in a way that it just looked like intersecting lines on a beige plane. I remember one student painted a coffee stain, so it looked like kind of a splatter painting, something that you'd expect to see in the 1960s. Another did like a color plane painting that was just a close-up of a wall. She reproduced the wall, and of course it looked like an abstract work. I did something a little bit different to interpret this assignment. I took 3 different gemstones and reproduced those on a canvas in a way that they looked like abstract landscapes. You may have heard of stones like Picasso jasper, ocean jasper, picture jasper. These are forms of sedimentary rock, jasper, that look like they have tiny little pictures of landscapes in them. There's also stones like brecciated opal that look like they actually have trees and leaves and branch patterns in them. These are some of the coolest stones for me because they actually look like little works of art. And so by calling my shop the Art of Gems, I'm not trying to say that I'm making art with gems. What I'm saying is the gems are art. And I'm excited to use my shop as a platform to share that natural art. Now, sadly, when I left Vancouver for India the first time, I got rid of every single piece of art that I had made in my university days. I sold it off at galleries, donated the rest to thrift shops, and just decided to move forward with my life spiritually. But what's interesting is I feel like now the cycles of time are playing out in my life in such a way that I'm circling back towards fine arts as an inspiration, while incorporating all the beautiful lessons I learned about spirituality. And so, whereas maybe 2 years ago I would look at a piece of Prehnite and think of it for the mystical vibrations, the spiritual energies healers attribute to it, which include connecting with extraterrestrials, connecting with earth energy spirits like the conscious intelligence residing within land features like volcanoes and mountains and hills, and connecting more deeply with the love and compassion for nature because it's such a beautiful grassy green color. It resonates with the heart chakra and beautifully connects the heart with the heart of nature, awakening compassion for all beings, for animals, for the elements. But now when I look at Prehnite, my mind goes back towards that artistic curiosity that looks not just at the spiritual properties, but also at the aesthetic value, the quality. It's kind of like a meeting of two worlds, like a symbiosis between just focusing completely on going beyond this physical plane, merging with an appreciation for and joy and gratitude to be a part of this physical plane. It's pretty cool. If you're one of my longtime viewers, you probably have also been dabbling with, if not fully jumping into a spiritual path. And I'd be curious to know where you are on your journey. Do you still feel as though spirituality, if you ever felt this way to begin with, as if spirituality is the ultimate goal in life and everything else should be shunned in favor of just pure spirituality? Or do you feel that spirituality is a nice addition to life, but that life should be mainly about family and friends and building up connections and enjoying the reality we're living in? Or do you feel like it's somewhere in between the two, the middle path, so to speak? I'm curious to know what your beliefs are because I find that mine can never really be pinned down and summed up in one single sentence. It's kind of fluid and changing every day. But I find Prehnite is a stone that always just vibrates with such a loving energy for me. And when I say it was one of the first stones I was inspired to work with, that's because the way it's described in the Book of Stones, a really great text, it's almost like a university text for crystal healers, by Robert Simmons and Naisha Ashian, they describe this stone as being one of the ultimate for connecting to a higher spiritual plane. And at the time, that was my goal. But when I started to look at pieces of jewelry made out of the gem, I can't lie, I can't pretend. I have to say, I just thought it was stunningly gorgeous. If you notice that little blurb of fur kind of pop up in the video screen, that was my new adopted kitty Oreo. I'll try to introduce her more in future videos. As of now, she just jumped up to join me here because I'm filming this on her windowsill. This is the place that she does her bird watching. But anyhow, Prehnite, it's a stone beautifully harmonious with the heart, beautifully harmonious with nature, and especially recommended for those who are opening their minds towards other dimensions, other planes of consciousness, who have that curiosity to see what else is out there, who else is out there, what's the meaning and what's the purpose. Now, it's not always advisable or recommended to seek only external spiritual awakenings. I've come to a point in my life where I feel like the greatest wisdom I can gather is through personal experience and personal discernment, really looking at what we experience and asking ourselves the fundamental question, has this made me more of the person I want to be? Has it taken me more in the direction of where I want to go? Has it brought me the results that I was seeking? If yes, continue with it. If no, take a big step back from it, reevaluate life, and get back to what makes you feel yourself. There was a comment on my most recent video, the last video that I filmed, from someone saying that it's nice to see me being myself again and kind of asking me why I left the organization I was with for so many years and, how it feels to be established in regular day-to-day life once again. A lot of controversy has been there about this, where people are hypothesizing, terrible events that may have happened in India to kind of scare me away. Others are hypothesizing pure narcissistic greed on my part and a desire to have more stuff or have my life back as the motivation for leaving. But the actual answer is a little bit more in line with what feels right and what resonates with me. When I asked myself these fundamental questions that I just mentioned, was I becoming more of the person I wanted to be? I felt like the stress, the pressure, the arrogance, the need to be right all the time, and the us against them mentality that saw everything and everyone in the world outside of that organization as the enemy. As somebody who's abusive, that would see news reports as attacks and as criticisms instead of just representations of facts. I started to see myself turning into an overzealous, judgmental bitch, pardon my language, and I didn't want to be that. When I looked to see, was I manifesting the goals that I've set for myself? Was I realizing higher states of consciousness? Was I more compassionate? Did I feel fulfilled in life? Again, the answer to that was no. I was living in what felt like a constant state of fear of failure. I didn't want to disappoint the people who were above me in that spiritual hierarchy. I no longer think such a thing as a spiritual hierarchy even exists. There's God, the ultimate, the love manifest from which all of us have emerged. And then there's us as representations of that love manifest in physical form. The only way that I feel closer to God, closer to the infinite, closer to the greatest of all greatness, is when I allow myself to be a channel for the love from the ultimate, the compassion from the ultimate, the creative energy, not destructive energy from that ultimate. I was so focused on the teachings of one individual that I forgot there was such a thing as my own inner intelligence. And this is where a lot of people, a lot of experts in the world of psychology and psychiatry that I used to be very dismissive towards, they always tell us to be wary when we feel that our own intellectual faculties are being set aside and that we're just blindly accepting at face value something that somebody else is telling us because we feel that that individual is without fault, is supreme, is beyond reproach. When we find that things that previously disagreed with our morality are suddenly becoming acceptable to us because we've let go of our own individual opinions, individual ideas, individual identities, things become pretty scary. And that's the place where I was at. I was starting to realize I didn't like the person I was becoming. When I looked towards the goals that were being set for me in that place, they weren't my own aspirations. It was somebody else's aspiration for me. And I didn't want to work towards something that I didn't even want. Who wants to run a race where at the finish line, instead of getting a prize, they get a punishment? So that's the real reason I came back, for those of you who have been asking. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't really want to talk against anybody. I can say this was how I experienced my time there. Other people might really enjoy it, really like the disciplined life, really like being told what to do and why to do it and what to think and how to think. For those individuals, a monastic life in that organization is probably ideal. For individuals who are more free thinkers, who are more explorers in consciousness, who like to understand things for themselves rather than be told, it might feel a little bit repressive. And so I was feeling repressed. Now I'm feeling free again. That's all there is to it. Anyhow, when it comes to your journey of exploration, if Prehnite, this gorgeous gemstone, resonates with you, if you feel that desire to deepen your compassionate connection with all that is, with nature, with the environment, with the animals, I definitely invite you to check out the Prehnite items in my Etsy shop. As always, the link is in the description below. It's etsy.com/shop/theartofgems. And you can find pieces like the ones I'm wearing right now, these Prehnite earrings that are made with Herkimer quartz diamonds. They're dangling from these nice square hoops. I have to be honest, I actually made these for my shop, but I love them so much I'm probably going to make one more pair for my personal collection. I'm also wearing my new favorite necklace, a piece again made for my shop using the highest grade hand-faceted ametrine stones. Ametrine is another one of those gems that's more valuable for its inclusions. It's amethyst with citrine forming within it. So the spiritual resonance of amethyst plus the manifestation power and creative energy of citrine, really cool stone. I've paired it with green fluorite, a stone of intelligence and heightened memory capacity. And on either side of that fluorite, I've put Prehnite to just up that vibration to an even higher extreme. The last thing I'll say in this video, people sometimes ask me, is it good to combine multiple gemstones or should stones be worn individually? I knew a lady named Sabita. She was a really cool lady. I worked with her at the Tarot Room in Vancouver. She did some really interesting kind of astrology-inspired readings. She had been born in Sri Lanka, so she was raised with that tradition. I remember I walked into the Tarot Room one day for my shift. She was just finishing her shift, and I was dripping in gemstones. I mean, like full drip, like rapper style, only instead of having like the diamond encrusted stuff, I was wearing semi-precious stone encrusted stuff. We're talking like turquoise, amethyst, citrine, aventurine, rose quartz, garnet, like any stone you can name. I probably had one piece of jewelry of that stone on me. Labradorite, moonstone, sunstone, all of them. And the moment I walked in the door, like my head was just in it. I was so passionate for the work that I did back then. I was just ready. But Sabita took one look at me and kind of shook her head and she said, if I wore that many stones, I would faint. And so again, this is the kind of thing that depends on the individual. She explained to me that for her, crystals and gemstones were like medicine. If she had a blockage, for example, in her Muladhara chakra, in the base of the spine that's related to physical activity and grounding and getting in your grind, she'd wear a ruby for a day or a garnet for a day or a smoky topaz or a smoky quartz for a day, one of the stones resonant with that chakra. If she had a blockage in the throat, the Vishuddhi, she'd wear a stone like blue topaz or like blue tanzanite, any of the blue gems that resonate with the third eye and with the throat. She told me that by wearing all of them at once, I was basically throwing my energy field into overdrive. Now for me, that works. I love throwing my energy field into overdrive. I don't feel overwhelmed by it. I feel inspired by it. That's when I make the best art. That's when I come up with the most creative jewelry designs. That's where I can talk nonstop, very fast paced like this in a YouTube video and not feel like I'm overwhelmed, not feel like I need to gasp for breath. But for other people, it can feel overwhelming. And so the best rule of thumb is to pick up pieces that look gorgeous to you, hold them, wear them on their own, wear them together, see what feels right. If you feel dizzy or like it's just too much, maybe take a couple pieces off and go with just one, but otherwise have fun, get into that full expression, enjoy the art of the gems, and like I said, check them out in my shop. If you mention this video while purchasing absolutely anything, I will send you 2 free gifts, including one that's made out of one of my absolute favorite epidote and tourmaline included Prehnite gems. So thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments how you feel about all this, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. And I promise I'll show you more of little Oreo here and her sister Cleo, who we kind of call Minu. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time. Bye.